Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Molnar here. How's everybody getting along? How was your weekend? How is everything going? Well, let's take a look, see what we got going on. Thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather Eastern, Weather Northeastern. We have a lot to talk about. It has to concern this weather pattern that we are progressing into here. As we get towards the weekend, we get into this more pattern here across the east. You can see towards like the 10th and the 11th of March here. Let's take a look here across the east. You can actually see it here. There is a big old trough camping out here along the east coast. And is this going to really amount to anything? I mean, it doesn't look tremendously significant, and it looks kind of open wave, kind of like. But, you know, as we continue in time here, take a look at this. See if this is actually going to materialize into a couple big East Coast snowstorms. One notably towards, say, the 13th and the 14th here. Look at this. Here's the 14th. So we got later in the 13th here and into the 14th. See this? This is a big old trough here across the U.S. East Coast, and we're going to take a look and see if we're going to get any snowfall this weekend into next week out of any of these systems. Do they have a chance to become any sort of snowstorm potential? Let's get into it. All right, to show you through day one all the way through the rest of the good chunk of March here. So here it is. Yeah, heading on into the weekend, you can see big old trough out west here. That's going to be the next storm. And take a look back east here. There's that trough. Will this give us any snow? Well, that is the thing that remains to be seen. And as we continue out in time here, you know, it is somewhat of a wave, but it really gets going after it gets off the U.S. East Coast towards the 12th and the 13th. And then we get replaced with a bigger trough back across the east here. And look at it, kind of solidifies towards the 15th of March here off the U.S. and Northeast coast here. And then we have an even bigger trough setting up here towards, you know, the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. So definitely want to watch out for that. All right, so let's take a look at the modeling here, see what's going on. You know, GFS here. Yeah, I know you're groaning because this model has been consistently wrong for a good part of this winter, but let's just take a look and see what's going on here. It'll give us a good idea at least for the next 60 to 72 hours. So here it is. There's that system in the Midwest here. This is where things get a little bit interesting. Look at that, north of Chicago. This is right around March 9th, 7 p.m. So you're tapping into some warm air here across parts of the Ohio Valley, Mississippi River Valley. So we're pulling up that rain. But look at the path this storm starts to take here. This is towards 7 a.m. on March 10th. We start to get you know, this is some areas here across parts of northwestern Pennsylvania into parts of Michigan. We're going to continue here, this area with the snowfall. So definitely watch out for that. You know, this model is not, you know, all completely wrong on this. But look at this. As we head towards, watch as we pivot towards 10 a.m. on March 10th here. And there it is, 1 p.m. So now, here it is. We're starting to get into this area later on Friday afternoon where we could get some snow developing. Now, there's some model differences between the European model and the GFS model. And, you know, there's temperature differences as well as track differences here. And we'll go over those here momentarily with you. But look at this. This is towards 4 p.m. You know, the GFS model is putting out, you know, big time snow here across Binghamton, Williamsport, up towards Syracuse, and then rain for Harrisburg, Allentown, Philadelphia, New York City. What's new there? Yeah. Probably thinking the same thing. So yeah, as we continue to track towards 7 p.m., 10 p.m., this is Friday night. So yeah, the GFS is indicating a pretty decent snowstorm here across parts of New York, northwest or northeastern Pennsylvania here, north central Pennsylvania, keeping mostly these areas south of this line, mostly into the rainfall. And as we continue to go out here into the northeast, this system it doesn't ride up the coast. It kind of slides, you know, this direction towards the south-southeast or east-southeast here. So that's going to take most of the moisture with it and pivot it south. Southern New England may get clipped here with some snowfall. But as you can see, the GFS here is kind of indicating that things are going to just kind of play out kind of mellow here. And as you can see, we pulled that one out. And then there's the 13th. You're going into next week, the 14th. So the GFS indicating that this storm is going to remain kind of off the coast. You see that... let me just back it up here towards the 14th. So, yeah, the two pieces of energy on the GFS stay completely separate here. All right, so take a look at the European model here. We'll paint a little bit of a different picture here from the GFS. Take a look at this. So, as we continue in time here it is, Thursday. So, we're continuing with showers and thunderstorms. It's been pretty quiet here across the Northeast with the exception for gusty winds. We might have some few lake effect flurries and whatnot, but you know what? The big show is going to be out west and into the central states as well here. So you've got some stronger storms here across the south. And watch this as we continue towards the weekend here. This system on the European model remains pretty weak. Look at this. So we get some, it's a little bit farther to the south in the GFS, so we'll get some moderate snow here around Chicago. This storm out west is big time. This is going to actually bring in warmer air than the previous system, so we're not going to see as much snow here into the lower elevations. It's going to be confined to the Cascades and Sierra Nevadas. So you're going to definitely have some mudslide problems out here. That's not looking very good. But as we continue, look at that. That's crazy. You're going to get torrential rains here along the Californian coast. But as we continue towards Friday here, this is as you're waking up. Look at this. Ohio Valley Low remains open and weak. So what does the European do with this system? It doesn't put as much fanfare with this system. Look at that. It's much slower. You do have two areas of low pressure, one here, and then if you can even call that it's not completely closed off, so to speak. But yeah, you have a very light amount of snow here compared to the GFS, and we'll get over those snowfall amounts momentarily here. So look at that. This is towards 6Z Saturday. So this is a couple hours, 3 or 4 hours after midnight here. Look at this. You got this low pressure along the east coast here. So it's starting to try to form into something, and we're starting to turn the mix over to snowfall here into parts of New York City, but it's not big. So there's the 995 millibar low as we head towards 12Z. Look at the European model here. It keeps it pretty much pivoting off the coastline here. We do get some accumulating snows into parts of New Jersey, New York City, into Connecticut. So that is pretty interesting here. That's pretty remarkable. 985 millibars. But look at this. By this point, 976, it's pivoting out to sea, and it just doesn't have a chance to really give the East Coast much, if any, fanfare. And this is the European model. It's been, a lot of you say it does flip back and forth between 5 to 10 days out. It does. But in the end, it does pivot around towards a more plausible solution. Now, the big snowstorm that the European model is really grabbing onto here, that's pretty, it's out on our list, but it's out at day 6, 7, 8, 9 here. Monday, March 13th. Look at this. So essentially here, we have low pressure here across Georgia, and it's streaming moisture up the Appalachians here. All right, as you can see here across the east, this is a much further south low pressure system. It is further north on the Euro than it is on the GFS. GFS kind of takes it way out here. But here's the European model. Look at this. This is accumulating snows in interior mid-Atlantic in the Northeast. And look at as we pivot towards Monday morning into Monday, late morning, early afternoon. We have a low pressure here forming. This is actually a little bit further to the south than the previous European model runs, though. But look at this. It actually weakened this system from previous European model runs here. It does start to strengthen it here towards Monday night into early Tuesday morning at 990 millibar low, and that would start to get some snows cranking in interior Northeast here. 983, this could be interesting, but as I caution you, this is Tuesday, March 14th, see? So a lot can change. This is going to bounce around quite a bit between now and then. So, 981 millibars, it's indicating a pretty extreme snowstorm here into parts of interior New England, eastern upstate New York. So that is pretty interesting. Pivoting to the north with a trough of low pressure trailing behind it, helping to bring some lake-enhanced snows along this trough. So that's a pretty interesting solution by this point, although it would be weakening into Wednesday, March 15th. So there you have it. All right, so what are we looking at for snowfall accumulations here? So this is taking us to Friday, there's Saturday, Sunday. So the European model with the weekend system really doesn't put much here across the Northeast. I'll zoom in momentarily so you can see. But as we go out next week, European model really enhances that. Look at that from Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday. Look at this. Yeah, it's showing a pretty big, once again, I hate to say it's ignoring the big cities of the Northeast coastal areas, but look at this. It gives interior upstate New York into northern New England and central New England here some pretty hefty snow accumulations here. Look at that out west here. It's Northern California is really getting hit again here with some more snow. So let's take a look at the GFS snowfall accumulations here. So this takes us through the weekend. As I said, the GFS is really pummeling parts of New York and Pennsylvania here, interior sections, with some heavy snow. So, not to say that won't happen, but, the GFS hasn't been the best this year. Look at this here across the northern plains, and there's the western snow. Let's see what the GFS does next week. It really doesn't do much here across the east. Yeah, some lake effect areas, but for the most part, you have to get towards the 22nd, and you know what? That the margin of error on that, look at that. It's too far out. All right, so as we get into the northeast here, zooming in on this through the weekend, here it is. Yeah. This is the one I'm kind of, in a bit of agreement with here more so. Talking about, advisory criteria, maybe borderline low-end warning here in Northeast Ohio for that matter. If you live in Cleveland or Youngstown area, definitely keep an eye on this system because you could have an advisory. I could see 3 to 6 inch widespread event. And that kind of trails here back east as we head towards Binghamton, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, maybe a few inches down towards Harrisburg and whatnot in Philadelphia. But you know what? As it heads east here, it's not going to be any big-time accumulation. So advisories, they may kind of stretch across. Let's get that line a little bit better. So it might be in this area right here. We'll be looking at some advisory criteria snowfall. And as usual, the GFS is going big-time bullish here across the Northeast. Look at this. As we head through the weekend, it is looking, it's putting warning criteria snow even down to Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania and then across northern Ohio. So Cleveland over to Toledo, Detroit, the GFS continues to show this solution. I still think this is the more unlikely solution, but we're going to keep an eye on it here because it's still... we're still talking about a couple, 3, 4, 5 days out here. So definitely going to keep an eye on this situation. All right, so the upper air pattern here, 500 millibar overlay. You can see big old blocking there across northeastern North America. Take a look at that. That's what you really want to see for East Coast snowstorms. But look at this. We're kind of void of it here towards Thursday, March 9th. Just don't see that happening anytime soon. But look at this big weakness that comes out of the Midwest here. This is our weekend system potential here. It is showing up here on the European model, so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. European isn't blowing this up into anything big time, however. And there's our system here across the West Coast. Watch this as we head in time. As I said before, I think the system's just going to get going a little bit too late here off the coast. The European model really grabbing onto that at this point. And it really can't go to the north here because you have this big old blocking Greenland high. So there is such thing as too much blocking and too far to the south, and that's what's happening for you snow lovers here into the Northeast. This is just not pivoting the way you would want it to. And here as we continue towards next week, this is what the European model's really grabbing onto. This blocking continues to push this system from the Midwest and the Southeast here towards the south. And that spins up the low pressure system here along the U.S. East Coast. And that's where things could really get interesting next week. We'll keep an eye on it. It's several days out, so a lot can change. But look at that. That is something definitely to keep an eye on. Polar Vortex Outlook here. Let's take a look and see what's going on with it. So you can see here across, it's basically up here, centered around the northern part of Greenland here. And as we continue in time towards March 10th, you can see it is making an effort here. It's kind of split into two different sections across Europe and Asia and then over towards North America here. So we got two separate cells. That's actually good for cold air intrusions if you want some cold air and some snow. And look at that. As we head through, say, Sunday, March 12th to 13th, it kind of just hangs out there. In fact, you can kind of see it's kind of spreading the wealth here. Asia, Europe, and North America. So you don't see any one area having massive cold air intrusions, but there'll be pieces that break off here. As you can see, we head towards March 18th. You start to see that there is a pattern here. It starts to solidify over Asia and Siberia here. So at this point, it's going to start retreating away from North America, it looks like, at this point. So as we head throughout March, it kind of retreats some and heads over towards northeastern Europe and parts of Russia here. So at this point, you start to see it kind of intruding down here into western North America, which means the West Coast will probably start to see more lowering snowfall levels here as we head throughout the month of March. All right, so the NAO index here, for you snow lovers in the East Coast, you really want to see this negative, and it has been negative, but we just haven't seen anything materialize so far in March, and unfortunately for people like snow, it's going to start hitting more neutral here in time. And it might actually head towards maybe slightly positive here as we go towards the end of the month. All right, so let's take a look at our future radar here, our HRRR. Let's see what's going on at least through the next 48 hours or so. As far as we can take it, the west is going to be getting blasted here. Yep, we got a next storm moving in for your Wednesday. There it is, Wednesday morning, early morning hours. We also got some big-time thunderstorms developing around Oklahoma City here. And up there across the Northeast, we got some showers kicking up on the back end of some coastal system here that's trying to pull away. You can see down 6 p.m. on, there it is, the 8th, Wednesday. Look at that. So yeah, we're continuing with showers and thunderstorms here across the midsection. We're getting some snowfall coming up here towards Minnesota, parts of Nebraska, and as we head out towards the west coast here, look at this. Yeah, we're seeing some heavy snow coming down to the valleys here. Another big storm here. This is 4 a.m. March 9th. Look at this. Yeah. So we got this next system here organizing into the plains. You can kind of make out where the low pressure track is going to set up here. As you can see, typical as usual this winter, bringing some warm air further north here across the east. Yep. And this is going to get kind of interesting as we head towards, there it is, 1 p.m. on March 9th. So we're getting into Thursday here. So how's this set us up across the east here? Well, you know, the big share of the snow is going to be up here. It's a big question mark because this area looks like a bunch of rain, but the system's going to have a tendency to slide this direction or this direction or this direction as we head towards the weekend. And what track it takes depends on how much rain, snow, or precipitation type you get. So to all my Caribbean viewers, Central America, Mexico, and to the Gulf of Mexico, yeah. We do have some cooler air moving here across the northern Caribbean, but you know what? For the most part, it's looking beautiful. We do have a frontal boundary towards March 15th. It'll start to get here into the northern Caribbean, northwestern Caribbean, towards Belize, all the way up to western Cuba. So this frontal boundary will make it pretty far south. That'll make it feel a little bit on the chilly side for you, definitely dropping those humidities down even further as we get towards the 15th into the 16th. And you can see the front kind of washes out, but we are far away from tropical season at this point. Wow, Western Pacific, look how quiet it is. Wow. This is taking us through the 9th, the 10th, the 11th. Look at this. It's not till the 14th here we start to get into some shower and thunderstorm activity here across the central Philippines. But you're having a beautiful stretch of weather here across the Philippines and Asia. Look at Asia up here. It is crazy how nice it is this time of year. And you're starting to get the cherry blossoms coming out in Tokyo, southward here, as well as parts of the Chinese mainland as well into South Korea. So very beautiful. Just get out there and enjoy it if you can. And look at this. Yeah, as we head towards the 16th here, the 17th, we do have some shower and thunderstorm activity that continues here across the southern Philippines up towards parts of China. This is an old frontal boundary that's stalling out. But as we head across here in the future, we just don't see anything tropical and things look very quiet. Look at that. As we head through the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, all this intertropical convergence zone stays well south mostly of the Philippines here. And this is a big old frontal boundary bringing some nice spring rains up here towards Japan. All right, so let's see what's going to happen here with temperatures. We'll go throughout the week here. Here is Wednesday morning. Not much of lows there across the midsection. And look at that. We head towards here Wednesday afternoon. Let's go out just a little bit. So yeah, we head into Thursday or Wednesday night into Thursday morning. There's your overnight lows. We're getting down to the 20s here in parts of the Northeast, but look at that across the southern areas. We are just baking for this time of year. And look at this as we head towards Thursday afternoon. Yeah, we're bringing that 32-degree line. Look at how far to the north that is. That's crazy for this time of year, but you know, it is March, so we're starting to see, look at this, 60s here across parts of the Carolinas and the deep south. That is crazy warm. And look at that overnight lows Friday morning. Look at that. Heading down into the teens into parts of upstate New York there. It's getting kind of cold, but then we warm it up pretty nicely in a Friday afternoon. So that's another thing that's kind of putting the fly in the ointment for snowfall here. We're going to be pretty warm the day before, but watch this as we head into Friday night into Saturday morning. It does get cold enough here if that snow were to fall here across interior sections of the Northeast. And look at that as we head throughout the rest of Saturday here. It does warm up a little bit here across the Northeast. And then look at that. Sunday morning, we are cold. We are heading into the teens across a large section of the Northeast here. So we're kind of bringing some warm air. Look at that. We're baking here in East Texas, parts of South Florida. the big old cold air is bottled up in these two regions. Now, let's see if that trend continues. We're looking for temperature trends here, not exact numbers. So we head into Monday morning there, Monday afternoon. Yeah, the trend seems to be a little bit of a warming trend here initially, but look at this as we head towards next week. You see the core of the coldest air here is heading, you can see where the trough is here. It's across the lakes in the Northeast. But look what's behind it here. We got some 70s heading up into Kansas. And, this isn't really that cold for this time of year into parts of the lakes in the Northeast. This is marginal, but you can still get some pretty good snowstorms if snow were to fall into this air mass. You see this? It is tending to stay a little bit colder here than the rest of the eastern half of North America here. Now, up in Canada, look at this. We got some cold air up here in the Hudson Bay, but look at this. Most of Canada, we are warming things up. It's much warmer than Canada is used to this time of year. And look at this. Friday, it's the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Look at this. Bone chilling cold across the Northeast. And we're kind of stuck in this broken record pattern. You can see a ridge here. You can see this trough developing out west into the Intermountain West. Extended outlook from hometown viewers. Binghamton to Scranton's Upper Susquehanna River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Wednesday, we start off with a few scattered snow showers before noon, but we'll have a less than an inch. We're heading up towards 35. Wind will be dying down, which is thankfully good. Into Thursday, 37, low of 28, cloudy skies. So it's going to be very uneventful until we get to Friday afternoon, particularly after 3 or 4 p.m. We might have some rain showers start to move into the picture, start as rain, and then Friday night, I think this will be probably a wet snow. Probably 2 inches in the valleys, maybe up to 4 inches above that 1,200 feet. 29 for a low, but look at that. By Saturday, we warm it up to 42. The snow showers will be moving out by 10 or 11 a.m. Thanks for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather Northeastern and Weather Eastern. Don't forget Facebook MeteoMark, Weather Northeastern. Also, Hurricane Northeastern at Susquehanna Weather for my local page. And guess what? MeteoMark.com, WeatherNortheastern.com is Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget, question or comment down below. Smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell button, share the video, and thanks for joining me.